I'm Susie Kuntz, founder and CEO of Math and Movement, and I'm so excited to share this topic with you, kinesthetic strategies to boost math outcomes. I am really passionate about kids learning math and reading and just enjoying the process. So I want to thank you so much for joining me today and listening to this presentation. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen. So do that now. All right, so this presentation is kinesthetic strategies to boost math outcomes. This is a copy of my book, The Math and Movement Training Manual. I'd love to give you a copy of this. If you email me at suzykuntz@gmail.com, SUZYKOONTZ@gmail.com. I'll make sure that you get a copy of this book. And if you're interested in this presentation, I'm also happy to share that with you. So just a little bit about me. I am the founder and CEO of Math and Movement. I started this program about 12 years ago, and I started it because I wanted kids to really enjoy math. I am someone that had some challenges with math when I was younger. In fact, when I was in high school, I really liked math and I wanted to learn it. So I asked my high school teacher if he would tutor me. He said he would. And we were tutoring, and he got pretty fed up with the questions I was asking him. But I had to ask a lot of questions in order to understand the information. So I was pestering him with question after question, and he threw up his hands and he said, "You will never amount to anything in math." So there you have it. I was pretty much a math flunky in school. I went to college. I signed up to be a math major. I figured they didn't have to know I was a math flunky. I was just going to try to be a math major. And in college, I had something very different. And that was a math professor who said, "Hey, you know what? Math takes time. You have to practice this. You'll be good at this at some point in time." I believed him. I went on. I became an actuary. And after that, I became a mom. I have 4 daughters. They're grown now. And so much of this work with Math and Movement came out of my trying to help my daughters to not have the same experience that I had. So I've also written over 20 books, and I've started this program called Math and Movement, which is a way for kids to be physically active while they're learning. Math and Movement is a kinesthetic, multisensory approach to teaching math that incorporates physical exercise and stretching and cross-body movements. And I don't know if you know this, but anytime we do a cross-body movement, we integrate both hemispheres of the brain. We engage both hemispheres of the brain. So this cross-body movement is so healthy for us because we have a corpus callosum that goes between both hemispheres of the brain. And when you cross with your arms or your legs, essentially you're shooting information back and forth across both hemispheres. So in Math and Movement, there are many, many different cross-body movements, and we combine it with fun activities. Kids pretend to be cats and dogs or soccer players or football players. And we always engage them with asking them what they like to do and then developing a movement around that. It's really fun. It's creative. It's energizing, and kids love it. The other part of the program is like this mat that you see in this picture. These are these mats that I have designed. There's over 250, and it encompasses math, reading, science, social studies. And the beauty of these is, I have to say, the mats are sort of magical for kids. You roll it out and the kids look at it and they say, "Oh, it's a game. Let me play this game." And so what we're doing is channeling their energy and their love of games into rigorous and intentional math practice. So let me just show you this video so you can see just in general what we're doing with Math and Movement. Math and movement has two different components. There's the math movements and then there's the floor mats. I want to introduce you to Harlan. Harlan is a 5th grade disillusioned math student. What his mom shared with me was that he didn't understand math. He was starting to feel really bad about himself because he didn't know the multiplication, and you need multiplication for 4th grade, 5th grade, and in subsequent years. And he's in 5th grade, he doesn't know it, and he's starting to feel really bad about himself. So I tutored him for an hour session, and what you'll see in this video is that Harlan has a change of heart. He begins the video with believing that he's really not a good math student. You'll hear him call himself something about his own ability with math, but then you'll see in the video that he changes his heart and he really realizes that he can learn math. As you watch this video, watch for how he describes himself as a math learner at the beginning, and then watch for the point in time where he gets excited about it and realizes that he can learn this.
I have no idea how to do my threes, and let's get to it because I'm really suck at this. All right.
You're going to jump over and land on 3 and say 3, and then jump over to 6 and say 6, and keep going all the way down to the end of the floor mat.
3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30.
3 times 5. How many hops do we make?
5.
All right.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 15.
So what is the answer?
15. Yeah, that was also really fun. But this is a really interesting way to learn because after jumping, you already feel really exhilarated and like good. So by jumping this, you're just feeling good by just being able to jump. It's like kind of like recess, but it's like coming in from a recess, but you're still doing math. Oh.
Is it easier to learn this way?
Oh yeah.
Your experience in math in school? Did you love it?
Struggling. It's kind of hard because they make you sit down and go. It's not as easy as this because this you can move around and really jump around and think. Because I feel like this is a more fun way to learn, and I think everyone should.
So I think you can see from that video that Harlan was started out really not feeling good about math, but then towards the end, he started jumping. He started realizing that he could learn this information. A great story is that after this video took place, after this training took place, a couple of years later, I talked with his mom, and his mom said that math had become his favorite subject in school. So just a little more about math and movement. There's different times that we can do these movements. There's really great activities that you can do at home with your students, with your child. And in schools, we do all these different movements too. So let me show you a video of an example of a math movement so you can see me doing this activity in a classroom.
The first thing that you do is to put your hands straight out, clap them together, cross one over the other. Now take your thumbs and turn them up, and now turn them down, interlock your fingers, and scoop like an ice cream cone. This is our elephant's trunk, and we're going to do the elephant march. The first thing to do is to take your right foot and cross it over your left, and whisper, then your left foot and over your right, whisper, then raise your elephant's trunk and say 3.
So that's exactly what we do. What we're doing is using this form of counting called whisper loud. So we whisper on numbers that are not the multiples and then clap or somehow emphasize the multiples. This is really good for the brain because first of all, we're doing the cross body movements. We're also practicing with one-to-one correspondence. So that's going to build both math and reading fluency, but also we're cementing the multiples in the memory by saying those multiples over and over again. There's different types of movements that you can do. So in a classroom, you could do this tapping at the table. You could do this at home also, where you're crossing over and counting, cross over, touch 1, cross the other way 2, cross across your chest 3, clap 4. So again, the book that I have has 250 different movements, and I really would love to give you a copy of this book so you can start using this with your kids. Another time we use math and movement is in the hallway when we're transitioning. So you can see here where I'm doing a movement that's called airplane with students as they're transitioning in school. Just talking about and thinking about hallways for a minute. I don't know if you have any sensory pathways in your school, but having math and reading on the floor as decals gives students so many more opportunities to practice. That I'd love to share more information about those sensory pathways that we've created at Math and Movement. Chalk masterpieces. So I love this idea of taking chalk and drawing and making big visuals of what kids need to know, whether it's hopscotch, whether it's skip counting, whether it's words. There's just so many great things you can do with drawing chalk and putting that outside and having the kids jump and learn. This is an example of one of our big mats. So these are big mats that we lay out and kids jump on them. It's really powerful and enjoyable. So this actually is the numbers from 1 to 100. Now take a look at this picture. This is actually a neighbor of mine right at the beginning of the pandemic and everything, shut down and we were had to be outside, be social distanced. And I taught the neighbor girl who was 4.5 how to add 10. So I'd love for you to get this PowerPoint and watch this video because I think you'll find a lot of great fun activities. This is Math and Movement in a physical education class. You see all the games that you can play, stand on a number, throw the die, add to that number, or subtract from that number. Kids love coming up with their own games also. What if you wanted to teach kids how to tell time? They could be jumping around the giant clock. Or if it's fractions that you want to work with kids, we have this gigantic fraction mat, and here it is on the floor. And then here's these skip counting mats. This is a girl who learned how to multiply, again, 5th grade student, and she's just so proud of herself because she learned to multiply. This is a big multiplication mat, and see how much fun this is that the kids have. You could find least common multiples, greatest common factors, all these fun activities that you can do with this. Or what if it's a little bit older, Cartesian coordinates? But we actually have young students play games on this mat and have them plot different points. Or if it's much older students, this is the unit circle. And I've been able to teach students sine, cosine of common angles from the unit circle in less than an hour. And the kids retain that information and they just really enjoy the process. Other ideas for jumping and learning. What about outside? You can either paint or stencil words outside, put down a decal, do it in chalk. Really what my point is though, getting them jumping and learning outside is so important because there's more oxygen outside that brings it into their brain, that really revives the students. It makes a great exercise, a great brain break for them, but also really enhances their learning of the math or the words or whatever you have put outside for the students. Another great video so you can see students doing that. Let's take just a quick little brain break with these positive affirmations. Here's what I like to do with positive affirmations. I like to do cross-body movements while we say the positive affirmation. So if it says, I am kind, we'll do I am, both arms up, kind. And so we'll start with I am kind, go across, and then do the bottom row. Ready? Let's go. I am kind. I am amazing. I am resilient. I am healthy. I am grateful. I am brave. I am unstoppable. I am loved. I am safe. I am good enough. Great. I hope that you feel energized just from doing that little exercise, and you can see how much these cross-body movements really, really energize us. All right, let's spend a little bit of time looking at some research. I'd like to introduce you to Dr. John Rady. He wrote a book called Spark, the Revolutionary New Science of Exercise in the Brain. What he did was to coin the term that exercise is like miracle grow for the brain. So imagine that there's something that we can do that would be like miracle grow for the brain, and that's exercise. And the reason why that is, it has to do with BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotrophic factor. So what's happening is that exercise is stimulating the brain to produce extra BDNF, and then that's used to enhance the development of new neurons and their connections. And I don't know if you've heard the term trauma or trauma-informed school, adverse childhood experiences, but if you have, there is something that happens when there's trauma and toxic stress. Often there's elevated levels of cortisol. That cortisol is going in and attacking the brain, specifically the hippocampus, where learning and memory occurs. But there is something that can fight off this excess levels of the cortisol, and that's BDNF. So the more we can get kids to exercise, the more that's going to increase the BDNF, and then that fights off the excess level of the cortisol, or this toxic stress. This is a slide that's really important to share because it's talking about the link between physical activity and brain activity. So if you have, you can see here that this is a composite brain scan of 20 students taking an identical test. So the first group is sitting quietly before the test, and the second group is going for a 20-minute walk. What you can see is more color in the brain scan of the students that took the 20-minute walk. I really think this is probably the most important slide for the whole presentation, because what it's showing is that when we have physical exercise, there's more brain activity, there's more neural activity. And that's where we want to teach students, in that state of their brain where they're energized, there's brain activity, where they're really ripe for learning. And we can get that through physical exercise. So I have a bunch of different slides in this presentation that talk about obesity. And I just think it's important to know that obesity is increasing. It's just a concern that we have. And of course, physical exercise can make a very big difference. So there's really a lot of benefits with doing this. We can keep kids healthy. We can increase their student confidence. We can increase test scores, but really more importantly, we can help students feel really confident about their learning and that they are a successful learner. So I want to share about family engagement nights. So we can come in to do a family engagement night. There's a video in here that talks about it. We can do a virtual family fun night. You can run a family fun night, and we could do the training for teachers and volunteers virtually. So there's a lot of great ways that we can do a family fun night. And this video talks about family fun nights that we've done in the past. I also want to share about sensory pathways. This is a video that shows a student jumping on a decal that's the hopscotch for threes. So she's jumping on that and she's learning and just loving it. What about a sensory pathway with alphabets? This is something else that we could do. Or we also put words down and give kids practice with jumping on the words. But a decal with the words on it is pretty powerful. Your students will learn to read quickly, and they will just love the process of it. And what about a mat like this where you can just write words on it and then use a dry erase and then wipe it away? So whatever word you're practicing, you just write it and then wipe it away and then write new words. Also think about painting your school with words, with numbers. In this video, this student is doing cross-body movements and practicing her words. I'm just a big believer in decorating the school with positive messages and words and numbers. So what about your bathrooms? Could you put positive affirmations in your bathrooms? What about on ceilings? So when kids are getting a little tired and they look up, they can get positive messages. And what about stair risers? Could you do a project for your school where you transform the hallways and put information there that kids need to know, whether it's the multiplication or percents and fractions? This is a picture of a before and after. Take a dark hallway and then the after, just, make it colorful and enjoyable. I also want to talk with you about some of the books that I have written, and I love to do virtual authors visits. So these are some of the examples. I've written about 20 books, and I would love to come in and do some work as a virtual authors visit. So these are just some of them. Let me talk about this Jump and Learn Multiplication. This one is a new book that I've just written that is so enjoyable for students. Gives students a lot of practice with multiplication. It has real world problems on it and review problems. There's pre and post tests. There's time problems, and there's positive affirmations on the pages because I want students to always have these positive messages. And here's a really cool thing about the book is in the table of contents, there's a place where you can put stickers, and at the end of the book, there are the stickers. So once they finish one part of the book, they take the sticker and then they bring it to the table of contents and put it in that spot. So let's say they completed all the pre and the post tests, then they would go and they would put that sticker there. And I know how much kids love stickers. When they finish the whole book, there's an I mastered multiplication, and then there's a certificate at the end where they can put that sticker. So one of the virtual authors visits that I do is one specifically for multiplication, and it includes all the books for the students and a skip counting by threes mat and a 1 hour virtual session that teaches all the students in the class how to multiply. And it's a very enjoyable event. So it's just some of the other books that I've written. This one with buddies, I have created a virtual authors visit that's Jump and Learn Numbers. And as a part of that, the students get this book that's buddies, and it has to do with odd and even numbers. And then in that one, we also have a skip counting, a 1 to 20 man, and the kids jump on that and they practice their addition and subtraction. I've written, because of the pandemic, I wrote 7 books, and 5 of them were the Hop to Success books with the next generation standards. And so these are problems that are aligned with New York State next generation standards. There's 20 problems for every standard. They're really enjoyable books, and one to offer as a fundraiser for your school 40% for these books as a fundraiser, and you could get them for first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, and fifth grade. So again, this is my book that I have written, and I'd love to give you a copy of it. My email is SuzyKoontz, SuzyKoontz@gmail.com. Go ahead and email me if you'd like a copy of this book or have any questions from this presentation. So thank you very much. It's just been an honor and a pleasure to share this information with you, and I hope to hear from you. So again, it's SuzyKoontz@gmail.com, SuzyKoontz@gmail.com. Okay, see you. Hope to see you at the convention.